This is the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast. Here's Rick Ucchino and SP3 on the Bleav Podcast Network.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome in. It is Full Gear weekend, and we here at Bleav in Pro Wrestling have you covered. It is our big prediction show. Myself, SP3, here as always, and we are not alone. Joined here today, you know him from Grapsody. You know, you probably read his work on Bleacher Report as well, which, by the way, that's where Full Gear, you can watch it, so might as well bring in somebody from Bleacher Report here. Phil Lindsey joining us on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us here, man. I appreciate you giving us this insight on this stacked card that we have this weekend.
Hey, you can look, but you can't touch. Your boy is in the building.
We got 11 matches we got to get through here, gentlemen. So absolutely stacked card. And SP3, we did have some news kind of break as far as the title eliminator tournament is concerned. A lot of people were wondering where Ricky Starks was and when this match with Lance Archer was going to happen. And we got some word from Tony Khan what exactly went down. And can you kind of run down for the folks what is going to be happening as far as that is concerned? Because the finals are no longer happening at Full Gear.
Yes, the Full Gear Eliminator Tournament will happen. The finals will happen after Full Gear. Friday night tonight, AEW Rampage in Newark. It's going to be Ricky Starks versus Lance Archer in the quarterfinals. And then the winner of that matchup is going to verse Brian Cage on the 0 Hour pre-show for Full Gear. And then the winner of that match will verse Ethan Page in the finals of the Eliminator Tournament on Wednesday in Chicago on November 23rd on Dynamite. So it's getting pushed back a little bit. Ricky Starks wasn't medically cleared last week, so that's why everything pushed back, which I'm hoping means that Ricky's going to win. That's why they push everything.
I feel like that's got to be the big reason to push it back, because I feel like if he wasn't going to win, I feel like they would have just replaced him.
Yeah.
But works out for me as a Chicago, Illinois resident. I'm gonna get a finals match in a Dynamite episode. So,
and you know what? This works out as well because we don't have to pick the finals now, which could technically tip our hand for what we're going to choose for the main event tonight, because the winner of that match obviously gets a shot at whomever the AEW World Champion is. John Moxley, MJF. We will be closing out the show picking that matchup as well. A lot of title matches, a lot of big matches, 3 women's matches on the card this weekend. Absolutely love to see that, and arguably the biggest women's match in the history of AEW. We're going to dive into all that. First things first, got to thank our friends over at BetOnline. They continue to be your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season, whether it's NBA, NHL, NFL, MMA, tennis, boxing, golf, and yes, professional wrestling. They have the list of all the favorites for AEW Full Gear up there this weekend. If you want to make a bet on that, you can do so as well right there. Just head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just make sure to use our promo code Bleav to receive your rewards. That is BLEAV. Bet Online, where the game starts. We appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure to hammer that thumbs up button. Make sure to hammer that subscribe button as well. The climb to 1,000 SP3 has now started. We reached 500 this week. We're now at 501 at last count, and the climb to monetization continues here at Bleav in Pro Wrestling. We thank you guys so much for all of your support. Let us start with a match that nobody thought would be on this card about a month ago because, well, Jeff Jarrett wasn't in the company about a month ago. But we get the impervious, just indestructible team of Sting and Darby Allin here. Phil, we'll start with you. Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Sting, Darby Allin. Sting does not lose in AEW. Does that change this weekend? Is there some way, some shape, or form that Double J and Jay Lethal get the win on Saturday?
yeah, I don't think if we're going to give Sting his first loss, it's going to be the team Double J. I think we're probably going to see the Qatar spot. Sting's probably going to no-sell the Qatar shot. But I don't think they're losing. I think that Darby and Sting are going to win here.
I think the only way that Double J and Jay Lethal win this match is if he hits the Qatar shot on Darby and pins Darby. Sting is not losing this match. I don't know if they're going to do that. I would say there's a puncher's chance of that happening, I'm not going to pick against Sting and Darby Allin. I did say on the show earlier this week that I thought of the favorites that we knew of, they were maybe the most vulnerable. But yeah, SB3, this is going to be a fun match. Sting matches are always fun. Love getting to watch this man work. I think he and Darby Allin are going to continue their undefeated streak.
Well, Rick, this earth is not your place. The pale skin is on your face. If you step inside with me, you will see a king. He ain't dead. He ain't The Rock. Don't want to hear your big mouth talk. I'm not going to go for Jeff Jarrett, even though he has a banger of a theme song, and he always seems to have these theme songs that I love the lyrics to, just like My World. But yeah, Sting doesn't lose. Def, Texas, Sting wins in AEW. The streak continues.
We got another match here that might be fairly predictable, but it's still going to be fun. This is a feud that has been going on for several months now and may finally be the blow off to this. We got Jungle Boy, don't call me a boy anymore, I am a man, Jack Perry, going up against Luchasaurus. It is a steel cage match. I love big bad heel Luchasaurus. I feel like he could use a big victory here. I don't know if he gets it, Phil.
Yeah, I think Jungle Boy is gonna win here. I am tempted to say that Luchasaurus will win and stretch out this feud until Christian is ready to wrestle again. But I still think that I still think it would be kind of a mistake to have Jungle Boy take 2 losses to Luchasaurus, and for that reason, I think Jungle Boy is gonna win. And I think the out you can do here is that it's a cage match and possibly not pin Luchasaurus, but yeah, I think Jungle Boy's winning.
I made a suggestion the last time we had a cage match, and I think SP3 was right. It wasn't necessarily the right spot for it, but SP3, I'll make the same suggestion because I think it might fit here. You could have some kind of situation where Luchasaurus is brutalizing Jungle Boy and accidentally throws him out of the cage, somewhere like that. But an escape the cage type situation for Jungle Boy here would protect Luchasaurus, and I do think that that's what we're going to get. That's going to be the finish for this match. Jungle Boy will escape the cage. I still think that Christian Cage is going to be a wild card here. He's going to play a factor in this match. Just depends on what kind of a factor and how big.
I mean, that would be a cool idea if this was any other company besides AEW. They actually have rules against escaping the cage. If it's a tag team match and someone escapes the cage, they're out of the match. Like, you don't win. You don't win by escaping the cage. You can only win by pinfall or submission. So I think this is going to be Jungle Boy's opportunity. If it wasn't a steel cage matchup, I would definitely agree with you and Phil and say, yeah, I think Luchasaurus should win here to kind of prolong the feud a little bit. But because it's a steel cage match that has been kind of a defined blow-off type of matchup in AEW, I think Jungle Boy's going to win here and hopefully move on to maybe the All-Atlantic Championship or TNT title.
Yeah, we do have a TNT Championship match coming up here. We will definitely pick one. That when that match got made, that was arguably like, okay, that if I wasn't going to buy it, I was going to buy it for that match alone. And that's my bad of forgetting the cage rule. So excuse me on that one. Our first championship match that we're going to talk about tonight, Jade Cargill defending her TBS championship against Nyla Rose. This has been a really, really fun build here, Phil. I'm happy that Nyla has gotten the opportunity to kind of showcase more of her personality because she's absolutely a spectacular Twitter follow, if Twitter's still a thing by the time you guys are watching this. But she's been great throughout this entire thing. This is the kind of build that a kind of feud that Jade, I think, has needed. And I think, Nyla has as good a chance of anybody as beating Jade Cargill for this match, for this championship. Does it happen?
No, I think Jade is going to win, but I think this feud has been great. And shout out to Tony Schiavone because, according to Tony, it was Tony Schiavone's idea to create this feud. And I think that it is arguably the best stuff that Nyla has done with the company. I think it has been the best use of her personality. I think that this is the most where you hear people say that she doesn't really need Vicky, and this is definitive proof that she is just more personable and she is just so much more likable when you just let her do what she's naturally good at, and that's be funny. I think that all of the promos and stuff she's done around this are great. I think the small things like having quote unquote TBS champion under her name or all of that stuff is just such a great touch. But at the end of the day, Jade will leave Full Gear with her title in tow.
I think that's going to end up being the case. I think this matchup is going to be great. I think these two are going to match up very, very well with one another. But at the end of the day, I don't think Nyla is going to be the one that finally knocks off Jade Cargill. I don't know who is, unless they are. I mean, unless they're going to keep her undefeated until Chris Statlander comes back, but I don't know how long that could possibly be at this point. I don't know if Nyla is the person, but I think Jade is going to get the win here, SP3.
Yeah, I think definitely Jade continues her streak. She's definitely going to go 1 year with this TBS championship. She won it on January 5th of this year. She's definitely going into January next year as still the TBS champion. But I agree with Phil 100%. Thank you, Tony Schiavone, because Nyla Rose for such a long time has been the funniest person in wrestling. Period, let alone AEW, and it's very reminiscent for me of like 2017, 2016 Rusev, where Rusev in WWE was like the funniest person around, but the company didn't really give him the opportunity to always be funny. So I'm happy that they gave Nyla this opportunity here where she's kind of made the most of like a short amount of minutes. Like I told you the other day, Rick, I have a friend that just watched AEW and he was just like, they've gotten like 30 seconds of TV time, but it's been the best 30 seconds of the show most of the time. Just her singing Jaded. I just want to play that on repeat over and over again. So give me more of Nyla Rose in the spotlight.
Yeah, and even if she loses this matchup, you can continue to play off of her in this way. I think they have definitely found the formula for her to be successful, win, lose, or draw in this match. And that goes to show you talk about she gets 30 seconds of TV time, but that shows you how valuable those 30 seconds can be for literally any performer. There is no throwaway time. You can make anything work. So it's been great to see her. And yes, Phil, I agree with you. If people didn't know that she didn't need Vicky at this point, they definitely know now that she doesn't need Vicky. So it'll be interesting to see how Nyla progresses after this, whether they find a way to continue this feud, because I wouldn't hate it either way. It's not like there's really a next TBS challenger in line that's, obvious for Jade Cargill. So if they wanted to continue this, I wouldn't be mad at it either.
If you're looking for another non-title feud for Paige moving forward and another like AEW original for Saraya to wrestle, Nyla Rose makes perfect sense.
Not going to argue with that one little bit. All right. AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Acclaimed, taking on Swerve in Our Glory. These guys, every time they get in the ring together, they just absolutely tear the house down. We were there actually all three of us were there in Chicago when these guys just I have never been in an arena for an atmosphere quite like that, where you have thousands of people chanting "Scissor Me Daddy" and singing like it is a World Cup soccer match during a tag team title event. It was absolutely a surreal atmosphere to be a part of. Swerve and Our Glory got the win there. The Acclaimed get their win later on to capture the tag team championships. And now here we go. It is the rubber match. I do like the Acclaimed to hang on to their tag team championships here. Phil, are you going to go with your boy's family in Swerve and Our Glory, or where are we going with this one?
Got his family in the dirt sheets. Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. People seem to take shots at us for attention, man. It's interesting. I don't know. I besides that, I think that the Acclaim are still bubbling. I think that they're still one of the top acts in the company. So it'd be a mistake to take the titles off of them this soon. I think that they're going to win here, and I think this is going to further the split between Keith and Swerve. Swerve has been teasing a lot of stuff this week. He's been doing very maniacal mustache twirling stuff throughout the week. I did notice, I don't know if other people noticed, but when one AR Fox said that he was signed, I noticed the first person that put the eye emojis over it. And he's also been teasing, hey, who was holding the camera in that segment with him and Billy Gunn? I don't know. So I feel like he is already kind of moving on from Keith, and we just don't know it yet. He definitely has a plan. I am looking forward to heel swerve in full effect, so I think that he's going to lose here and move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, heel swerve when it does happen, full fledged is going to be the best thing on AEW TV week in and week out. The guys just got it, SP3, and I'm looking forward to this. And I think this is the right time. You get a rubber match here, the Acclaimed go over, and that for lack of a better term sends Swerve over the cliff, and we're full fledged heel Swerve, and we're off and running.
Sneaky Swerve. Yeah, I love Swerve, man. As a heel, it feels like everything is kind of coming together for him, where he's feeling like he's on the cusp of kind of breaking through to that main event level. So all he needs to do is kind of get through this match. So I agree with y'all. The Acclaim is going to retain here and wrap up this rivalry that they really overachieved with, because I'm pretty sure when they booked this for All Out, it was supposed to be one and done, and they got a 3-match program in 3 months out of this. So this program definitely overachieved. The Acclaimed got to the next level. They're the champions. They're the top babyface tag team in the company, despite FTR having the year they are. The Acclaimed, due to this program kind of taking them to that next level, they are there. And then you got Swerve as a heel in the waiting. Keith Lee can break out at any point as a babyface, but I do think, the Acclaim win. Swerve either turns here or definitely on Dynamite or Rampage following Full Gear. And I'm definitely with Phil, and I actually said it on AE Ramble this week on True Hill Heat. I was like, AR Fox and Swerve, that's who I think. I think that's going to be the alliance. I think AR Fox was behind the camera. And if you haven't already, go out of your way to watch Swerve and AR Fox back in their Lucha Underground days as Killshot and Dante Fox in the greatest death match on network television history. What was it? The God of War match? Man, just go out of your way. If you want to see people going through glass, bleeding from the back, if you want to have a newfound respect for AR Fox, who was one of the MVPs of Dynamite this week, go out of your way to watch that match. I think they are going to be an alliance coming out, and that's going to be the new heel group for Swerve.
I do want to go back to what you were talking about with the Acclaimed real quick, because I have to just give kudos to Tony Khan for everything that has happened with the Acclaim, because Tony Khan has listened to his fans. He has read the room on everything from just the simple, maybe you guys shouldn't do the scissoring thing on TV. And now all of a sudden we're getting foam scissors out in the crowd and everything. He has listened to the fans. He has watched the maturation of this team, and he didn't stand in the way of it. And yeah, it probably did change his plans, because I agree with you. I think in Chicago, that was supposed to be it. But there is, and I already talked about it once, there's no way you can listen to that crowd, be in that kind of atmosphere, and go, yeah, we're done here. So kudos to Tony Khan for keeping that going and not standing in the way of the Acclaim, because sometimes you're going to catch lightning in a bottle. Just ride with it, man. Who cares if this wasn't what you had planned? Money's money.
And the Acclaimed is his creation. They weren't a tag team anywhere else. Tony put these two guys together. It on paper it shouldn't work, but it does.
And then you throw in Billy Gunn, who's 80, and he's more over than he ever has been in his entire life. He looks like he's 35, and he's the most over that he's ever been in his entire. It's insane. Like this, none of this should work, and it just works, and that's what I love about professional wrestling. Speaking of professional wrestling, perfect segue to the Wrestling Championship, the Ring of Honor World Title. We got Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, Sammy Guevara, and the Ocho, the Ring of Honor World Champion, Chris Jericho, a fatal 4-way. I would love to see Claudio get the belt back here, Phil. I wouldn't mind Bryan Danielson winning either. I have a feeling Chris Jericho is going to win, which probably means Sammy Guevara is walking away with the championship. So, try to follow that logic there, and who are you going with?
I have been very critical of the way that they've booked the Ring of Honor World Title. I think that they handled Gresham's run very poorly, and I think the way that they justified that was hoping that we would get a good run out of Claudio that didn't really happen. But I've enjoyed for the most part what Jericho has been doing with the championship. But then they also have kind of ran Jericho versus Bryan into the ground. They've done this match way too many times. And I feel like they've teased us enough with putting a title on Bryan and Bryan holding the title up on November 2nd episode. Just put the title on Bryan, man. Stop it. Just cut it out. Stop with all this teasing. Stop going, all right, well, it's the Ocho. He's highlighting. No, just put the title on Bryan. If you want anybody to be the brand ambassador for Ring of Honor heading into the TV deal, it should be Bryan. Just everything he means to that brand. I feel like him winning that title means more than him winning the AEW title in a lot of ways. I feel like he is the guy that can entice a lot of guys to come to that brand and either want to sign or just have matches with him, because who doesn't want to have matches with Bryan Danielson? And so I think it's now or never with that. I think now you gotta piss or get off the pot. Put the title on Bryan and move on. I think there are a lot of story elements here that are interesting, like doing this warped version of what Bryan and Garcia were early in the year with Jericho and Sammy. And I feel like they're setting the stage for Sammy to finally go, no, I'm tired of being in Jericho's shadow. I want to win a world title. And I feel like he's going to do something in this match that kind of drives a wedge in between them. And that's to build into more of the stuff with Garcia. But I still think the end of this match should be Bryan walking away with that title.
I can't argue with that, SP3, and I agree with Phil. I was not pleased when they took the belt off of Claudio. I thought his run should have been a lot longer, and this is something that I talked about, on the program when it happened. I'm like, look, unless you're doing this to get it back on Claudio in a bigger match, in a bigger setting, some way, somehow, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. And then Jericho started doing what he's been doing with this championship, and I'm like, okay, I get it now, right? It's you take the wrestling championship and you put it on the greatest sports entertainer of all time. Oh, the sweet heat, right? I get it, and I appreciate it for what it's been. But yeah, I feel like it would just be right for Bryan Danielson to walk away with this title now and then hang on to it for a very long time. As Phil said, they have really teased putting something on him, having him win something. I think it's about time, and I think it would mean a lot for him. If it's not him, I would put it back on Claudio. You're going with Sammy, though, aren't you?
I don't know. I mean, I agreed with a lot of what you and Phil just said, except for I don't think there's a chance in hell Chris Jericho is not the Ring of Honor World Champion going into ROH Final Battle. But that is part of the reason, and along with everything that Phil said, of why I think this match should not be on this card. This literally just came out of nowhere 2 weeks ago, and it's totally lost the narrative of this whole entire story, where this story was. About a month and a half ago, this story was about Daniel Garcia being in the middle of choosing between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Jericho Appreciation Society. But that segued nicely into the whole issue between Bryan Danielson and Wheeler Yuta. We haven't heard anything about either of those things in the past 2 weeks since they made this fatal four-way. When they did the whole brawl, when Ian Riccaboni was about to get jumped, I was like, this naturally should lead to a 6-man tag at Full Gear. It should have been Claudio, Bryan, and Yuta versus Garcia, Guevara, and Jericho. And then you do the fatal four-way at Final Battle, and then you're absolutely right. That's the stage Bryan Danielson should win the Ring of Honor World Champion. One of the ROH GOATs should be the one to dethrone Jericho. We're going to talk about one of the other ones next, who I thought they were going to keep as a babyface so he could be the one to dethrone Jericho, but he's a heel now. So it is Bryan Danielson that needs to win here, but he's not winning here. So it's just like, why is this match on this card? This match should not be on this card. And once again, I feel like AEW has found themselves in a dilemma of they used blood and guts again to start a feud and not end a feud. And we are here 6 months after this Blackpool Combat Club and Jericho Appreciation Society thing started, and we haven't even progressed past like point B of a A, B, and C story.
Well, I do think that they could progress forward. But again, in order for them to progress forward, Bryan needs to win. And, man, when you really think about it, they've done a Jericho versus Bryan match on 3 out of the 5 pay-per-views this year. Move on from this match, please. And so yeah, Bryan has to win here, because I feel like the easy story to do here is you can have Bryan win here, and you can do Bryan versus Wheeler Yuta at Final Battle, because the split is already there. The story is already there for that match to happen. I feel like one of the stories coming out of this pay-per-view will be the implosion of Blackpool Combat Club. I'm calling it right now. There are all of the seeds there for this stable to implode, and
I can see that.
And I feel like that should be the match at Final Battle in some way, is Bryan versus Wheeler Yuta. And you could do so many other things coming out of that and lead up to sometime next year, Bryan versus Garcia for the Ring of Honor World title. But in order to get there, move on from this feud and put the title on Bryan.
I don't see it happening here. I just don't. I
I
see
don't
Jericho
win.
I see
come on.
Jericho winning, and he's gonna hold it till Final Battle, where I think probably at that point they should not do another Bryan and Jericho matchup at Final Battle. It should probably be Claudio, because they have established that Claudio, if it's 1-on-1, no low blows, nothing involved, he will wash Jericho. They proved that in the tag team matchup with Yuta and Garcia, and they proved that in the tag team match on Dynamite. So I feel like they're setting Claudio up to eventually still be the guy to dethrone Jericho.
So you want to see Jericho beat Bryan for a third time this year? I don't want to see that.
I don't want to see it either. But this is why I'm annoyed by this whole program now.
He got 2 other guys that Jericho could beat. He doesn't have to beat Daniel Bryan in this match. But I get what you're saying. So Phil, you're going with Bryan. SP3 is going with Jericho to retain.
I mean, the only other interesting thing you could do here, and I feel like it makes a lot of sense, is you could have Jericho pin Sammy to win this match. And that could be the thing that points Garcia going, no, this guy is never going to fully have your back. He's a snake.
Yep.
I know you feel like you're obligated to stay with this guy, but he's never going to be what you think he is.
I think you sold me. I think I'm going to take Chris Jericho to retain here. I was leaning toward Bryan Danielson, but I think Chris Jericho is going to walk out. Next up, we got the Big E special, Big Meaty Men Bumpin' Meat. We got Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, Wardlow, TNT Championship on the line. Phil, the winner's us. Like that's who wins. We win. Like, it doesn't matter who walks away with it does. It does matter who walks away with the TNT Championship. Wardlow is an absolute stud. I love Samoa Joe. Powerhouse Hobbs, long overdue for a singles push. I don't feel like this TNT Championship run for Wardlow has been long enough. I don't think it has been what we had hoped it would be when they put the belt on him. He shouldn't be punished for that. I'm not saying that they should take the championship off of him. This would be a big win for Wardlow, and I think he should come out looking incredibly strong in this and come out on top. He needs to keep this TNT Championship until he's ready to move up to the world title picture, in my opinion. Keep this man strong. I think Wardlow retains here, but this match is going to be a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I think that this is a way to kind of start the feud with him and Hobbs and keep the Hobbs feud going into next year. Wardlow really needs a big definitive pay-per-view win. He needs something that was supposed to do for him what Double or Nothing was going to do, and it really didn't. It was a big win for him, but it ended up being a footnote because, of course, MJF stuff became the biggest story of that night. And then, of course, MJF went on to cut the promo of his life the following week. And then he went on to do what Mox said, some shitty Brian Pillman-esque stuff and go away. And so I feel like Wardlow needs this win. So I think Wardlow's going to win, and I think it's going to lead to Wardlow versus Hobbs at Cal Palace next year. Makes all the sense in the world because that's Hobbs' territory. That's his hometown. Yeah, I think that Wardlow's going to be the winner here.
What are you thinking, SP3?
Yeah, I think Wardlow is going to retain. I love Joe's promo on Dynamite. Joe reminded
was
me
Joe.
because I was literally trying to make the argument that Samoa Joe's not really the heel in this situation. He didn't try to call it out to Wardlow's title. He wasn't pushing aside Wardlow. Wardlow did all of that to Joe, and it's not right that people are blaming Joe for not standing around being the victim. He was absolutely right. He should not be victimized for not standing around and letting Wardlow just play him like he was doing. So I am on the side of Samoa Joe, but I think Wardlow is going to retain here. Probably, hopefully, by pinning Samoa Joe because he's Teflon. He'll be safe.
Yeah.
Powerhouse Hobbs, you got to keep strong. And I agree with Phil. The Powerhouse Hobbs Wardlow feud should continue. And I think Hobbs should be the one to dethrone Wardlow.
Yeah, I think Joe is going to take the pin here. And I think that is going to be the catalyst for Powerhouse to say, well, you never beat me. I've been, as he said yesterday night, I've been kicking this guy's ass for weeks, and you did not beat me at the pay-per-view. And I feel like that's going to be the thing to keep this feud going.
You look at these three guys, and you look at their stature, and you would think of their skill set all being similar. They're big, they're hosses, right? They're big, powerful, meaty men guys, right? But I think the edge and hopefully the story that plays out in this match is, and as we got a little reminder this week, Wardlow's a flyer, man. He is fast. He's athletic. He can do all the flippy shit, as Braun Strowman would say, right? He can do everything. I'd like to see him pull more of that out in his arsenal in this match because I think that's the story to kind of get him over the top is that he can do those high-flying, fast-paced type moves and kind of, almost like working like Muhammad Ali and just wear his opponents down by running circles around him because he is that kind of big, fast, athletic type guy. I think this is the perfect type of match for Wardlow to kind of showcase that and bring something different to the table that maybe Samoa Joe or Powerhouse Hobbs can't necessarily do. This is a great matchup on paper. And yes, Wardlow absolutely needs a big win. And I do think that he's going to beat Samoa Joe. Going to be interesting to see how many times he power bombs him. I'm going to go maybe one, maybe two. But that's a big hoss you're trying to throw down. Next matchup, our next championship matchup, one that we were all hoping would be happening sooner rather than later. It is happening. The Elite are back. They are coming back at Full Gear, going back for their AEW World Trios Championships that they never lost. Hell, they never really got to even hold them up on television. They won the damn belts, and then Brawl Out happened, and we haven't seen them since. They are going up against Death Triangle. Phil, Death Triangle has been really, really great as Trios champions, as just as a Trios group for a long time now. Is Tony Khan really about to just bring the Elite back and put the belts right back on them?
I mean, I feel like the telltale sign was giving them a title defense this week and letting them win. Yeah. Those are the Elite's titles. It's always been the Elite's title. Those titles exist because of the Elite. They will be the first 2-time Trios champions. It's happening. Anybody that thinks it's not happening, you're delusional. You're fooling yourself. I'm sorry. We're getting the intro of a lifetime. We're getting the and now.
Justin Roberts' introduction is going to be one to watch this week.
He saved a small dog. He may or may not have a bite mark on his arm.
I mean, if he says that, I am marking the hell out.
He may or may not still have a bite mark on his arm. He made time to go to Japan and have a great vacation, but still promote the video game. But he's still here in Newark and not North Carolina. Kenny Omega is winning this match. I think that it's great that they found a way to put these 6 men back in the ring together, and they've all had stories matches together, and so no, at least winning this thing. This is the most predictable. This is the most predictable outcome on the entire card.
I'm with him, SP3. I think they are the Elite's championships. He's absolutely right. These championships exist because the Elite they had those belts. You would probably know this, Phil. They had the belts made for like a year, didn't they? Like they were waiting for Kenny Omega to come back so they could put these Trios championships on the Elite.
No, yeah.
Death Triangle has had a good run. They have been a good, I hate to say, placeholder for the Elite, but that's basically what they're going to be at this point. Kenny Omega is absolutely winning this match. and they're putting the trios titles back on the Elite SP3. It's just what's going to go down. I would be absolutely stunned if anything but that happened.
I mean, can we just talk about how much of a victim Kenny Omega has been in all of this? This man should save the dog. This man got bitten and choked from behind. This man was the only person who had a reasonable conversation, reportedly, and allegedly with CM Punk that night. Out of everybody from the Elite, he was the only one that had a conversation that didn't end in fisticuffs with CM Punk that night. This poor man, he just came back. He was out for 10 months. Fought his way back. This man was put together by duct tape and bubblegum for years. He comes back. He has 2-3 matches, and he gets suspended for trying to save an animal. Are you kidding me? Kenny Omega for humanitarian of 2022. The Elite gonna win the Trios Championships. These 6 men have been like a part of some of the greatest matches in this company's history, whether it's Kenny and Pac, the Iron Man match, whether it's Lucha Bros versus Young Bucks steel cage match at All Out last year, the match they had in California on Rampage this year, the Escalera de la Muerte back in 2019, the first ever Double or Nothing, their tag team match there, the Young Bucks versus Pac and Phoenix last year on Dynamite, like Phoenix versus Omega last year on Dynamite. Like the list goes on and on. These guys have delivered some of the best matches. I have no doubt in my mind when it comes to in-ring work, this will be the best match on the card. But the Elite, 2-time AEW World Trio Champions. Yeah. And my prediction, House of Black comes out after and it lays them out.
Yeah, I can see that as well. But yeah, the Elite are definitely winning here. I don't know how true this dog story is. I think that people have run with it.
It's fun though.
It's fun that people are running with this dog story, but
I still can't get the thought out of my mind that he apparently picked up a dog in a brawl and got bit, but didn't get bit by the dog. Like that.
Yeah,
that's what heroes do.
I just still think it's the funniest thing in the world that we've gotten both sides of the story, and that Punk's side of the story makes him seem like this valiant guy that was trying to stand up for his friend and his wife and defend himself when these guys came busting in his locker room and kicked down the door. And on the other side, they're like, oh, we just wanted to talk to the guy. And by the way, Kenny saved the dog. Everybody, both sides of the story is just so, favorable for themselves that it's just like, yeah, neither of you guys are telling 100% the truth. The truth is somewhere in between.
Always 3 sides to a story. Their side, and what actually the fuck happened. All I'm going to say is, Phil, you were there. I was there. Mr. Brooks should have known the second that he said those words, if you have a problem with me, come see me, after laying out all that trash that he laid. Should have known someone was going to come knocking on his door.
He didn't think those guys from Rashida were going to kick his door down.
Those guys who can't even manage a target. I mean, he didn't know they can manage kicking his door down. That's very reasonable.
Hey, I mean, it is what it is. I think this is long overdue for these guys to get back on TV. I'm glad they're back. In a perfect world, it would be nice if everybody could do business and we eventually get Kenny Omega versus CM Punk. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but in the meantime, it is great to see the Elite back.
Tony Khan was asked about the status of CM Punk during his media conference this week. And just like every other time that CM Punk has been brought up to Tony Khan since All Out, Tony Khan said, I cannot comment on that.
Yeah. Man, you're just leaving so much money on the table. If you can't somehow get us not just Omega versus Punk. Come on, Punk and FTR versus the Elite at some point is it's cash money. I mean, not even just that. If Punk and Bryan versus the Bucks. Come on.
I mean,
make these matches happen, man.
It's so much they can do with this.
The only hope is that cooler heads prevail and they see the money signs once CM Punk is healthy, right? And there's still several more months because he tore a tricep, so he's got several more months before he could even possibly think about getting back in a wrestling ring for whatever company it's going to be if he does get back in a wrestling ring. So that's really the only hope, is that there's really no litigation, there's no charges filed, and everybody just says, all right, we're cool now. What happened. let's all go make some fucking money. Like that's really the only hope that they got.
The funniest tweet I've seen today is that, we all know that based off of all of these workout videos that Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to wrestle again. He's made that very clear that he was happy with how his match went this year at WrestleMania. And boy, if you are thinking about a one last match for CM Punk in WWE, it has to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. And so one of the funniest tweets I've seen today is somebody saying, listen, if Austin is the catalyst to get Tony Khan to come to cooler heads and go, look, let's just figure this out with Punk so he doesn't go over there and have that match, then that adds to the legacy of Stone Cold Steve
It does.
Austin,
Yeah.
making him one of the greatest of all time.
This is how he gets some plug back, because he lost a little credibility in the modern day when the news of him coming back after over a decade was overshadowed within 10 minutes of Cody Rhodes saying that he's leaving AEW. So if he wants to get some cred back and say, oh, I've been talking to Triple H about getting CM Punk to do that match, and that leads to Tony bringing Punk back, Austin, unofficial, it's official, he's the GOAT.
Yeah, and by the way, all of you people that are trying to hype me on a Logan Paul versus Stone Cold Steve Austin match, shame on you. That is disgusting. What is wrong with you? I do not want to see that. Give us anything other than that. John Cena's right there. We've never seen that
I'm
match.
here for
Come on.
Cena versus Logan Paul, though.
I still love that. If you missed our show earlier this week, I still love SP3's suggestion of Stone Cold versus Bray Wyatt. I think that is absolutely brilliant. A great matchup for Stone Cold.
This is the closest we're ever going to get to Stone Cold versus John Cena. Pull the trigger now.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for? And if you don't do that, there are other matchups, but don't give me Logan Paul after 3 matches. He has not earned that.
If you're going to do it, look, I mean, it all depends. Like, if you're going to take it on a match-by-match basis with Stone Cold, which you probably should at this point, yeah, you should probably go ahead and give us the one match that we've always wanted that we've never gotten, and then take things from there. People who want this Stone Cold CM Punk match, there's no way in hell that would logistically happen at this year's WrestleMania anyway. No. So go ahead and give us Cena versus Stone Cold at WrestleMania, and then if you wanted and are able to do Cena versus Punk versus Stone Cold somewhere down the line, you got SummerSlam. You still got time. You could do it down the line as well. Yeah. Let's dive back into the pay-per-view that's actually happening this weekend for the other company. You want to talk about people coming back after a long time off. This is a match that is literally 5 years in the making. This is a match that I was hoping that we would see at some point. Saraya versus literally anybody. I wanted her back in the ring so damn badly. I have always been a fan. She is, without a doubt, one of the main catalysts for the women's revolution in professional wrestling across the entire board. And she is going up against the biggest women's star in AEW, hands down, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD versus Saraya, Full Gear. And SP3, this has been a very interesting build that took a weird turn this week. I talked about Tony Khan and his ability to read the room and listen to the crowd, and you had that promo exchange the week prior where Saraya is getting boos, and you have Dr. Britt Baker coming off as the hero and the representative of AEW, and now Britt Baker this week cuts a very, very babyface level promo. Could there possibly be a double turn here in the works? Could there be some shenanigans here? There's some kind of weird feeling where like this in the last week and a half went from obviously this is a slam dunk, Saraya's winning this matchup, to could she possibly lose in her first match back in 5 years? This is a very interesting matchup to me. How do you see this one going on paper?
I think it's pretty clear Saraya should probably win. You want to reestablish her, even though I will say that Tony Khan did put a shade of doubt in my eyes, because he said that kind of a theme of the Full Gear card is homegrown AEW stars versus these international stars that have come into the company, and this is kind of the personification of that. So you would want the homegrown star to win, and Britt has been cutting pretty much babyface promos, because I think that the real issue here is that Saraya is a person who is new to writing her own promo material, and I don't think she really knows the audience she is trying to address, thus why she got booed in that back and forth between the two. And I felt like the build could have been stronger. I felt like there's been a bunch of good stuff in the build here, but it's been on the wrong week. I feel like the promo exchange they did last week on Dynamite should have happened probably 2 weeks earlier, like a month. They should have had this match set like a month ago. I felt like the whole kind of Saraya has an interview, then Britt interrupts. The next week they're supposed to do a sit down. Then Saraya's there and Britt's not there. That just wasted 2 weeks of the build. Like literally, you could have done that promo exchange here. I felt like Britt's promo on Dynamite this week was her best work of her career. That was just a knockout the park, go home type of promo that Britt Baker cut, and I would want her to win in any other situation. But Saraya, you got to establish her being that recognizable name, being a new star in the women's division. She has to get the win here.
Phil, here's my mindset on this match coming in here, and I could make an argument. SP3 says he feels like Saraya should win this matchup. If you're just going from a strict storyline standpoint for Saraya, it's is she rusty? Can she still cut it? And she hasn't wrestled in 5 years. That is, at least on paper, should be a huge leg up for Dr. Britt Baker, who has been your biggest star. Granted, she's probably going to have outside help, shenanigans, whatever. It's a Dr. Britt Baker match. It tends to be what happens. This to me feels like almost like Britt Baker should win this matchup, because Saraya hasn't wrestled in 5 years, because she's going to be rusty. And I think the story with Saraya is, okay, maybe I still don't have it. Maybe I do. It could take me some time to get there. We've seen people come back in other sports off of injuries or whatnot, and they are completely rusty, right? I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan. I saw Joe Burrow 6 weeks after an appendectomy go up against Pittsburgh Steelers and look terrible, throw 4 interceptions because he hadn't taken any practice reps. Saraya hasn't wrestled in 5 years. This should be a big leg up for Dr. Britt Baker. And I think that could be her path to victory here is Saraya is just rusty. And that's the story that they can tell in this match. I'm not saying that Britt is going to get the win here, but I think that's her path to victory, if you wanted to tell that story.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to do it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Saraya is going to win. And I would not be surprised if Jamie Hayter somehow comes into play, and that comes into play later in the night. But I think that the build here has been very up and down. I like the small things that they've done with this. They've done very interesting things here. There are real similarities here, if people haven't noticed it, between this program and Punk and Hangman. You can see the similarities of her saying, no, I'm protecting my home that I helped build from another one of you WWE guys coming in and taking what I've already built and calling yourself a star in my house. I love that storyline. I love the idea that Saraya came straight in and was like, yeah, we're going to do a sit-down interview with my friend. And Britt going, no, I'm not doing that with your friend like you would do over there in that other company. This is my house. I'm doing an interview with Tony Schiavone because that's what we do here. And you can't say that was a waste, but I like that small detail of it. I like that Britt brought back this conspirator line. I caught that right away, and I like her idea of going, no, I'm not going to do this promo with her because that's your friend. She's going to ask me tough questions, but she's going to softball you questions because you guys are clearly friends. I like that. I think that the promo last week should have happened sooner, but I don't know how much of that is because she wasn't cleared yet. But I thought that they knocked it out the park with the segment last week, and all of the passion that Saraya came in with. I thought her promo was great. I think that some fans were going to boo her because AEW fans are very territorial. They pick their wrestler every time, and once you turned it us against them thing, they were always going to pick Britt. And so I've seen people say crazy things like, "Oh, how dare she say that she's a bigger star than Britt?" She is a bigger star than Britt. Sorry, she is.
She is. I just don't think she should have said that you don't know what it takes to be a star. I feel like she got the better tone this week in her short promo when she was like, she wanted to come for the bigger star. Britt's the big star. That's why I'm coming after you. If she had said that in last week's promo, I feel like then you're more keeping it as a baby face. She leaned too much into being the them against us.
Well, you could say that, but Britt started it. Britt started it by saying that all of these things that you couldn't cut it and all these other things, and she was like, no, let me remind you who I am because you're talking crazy. And so I was fine with that. I just think that it isn't going to read as well with AEW fans because, as we've seen several times, they're going to pick their person. They did it with Stat and Ruby. They've done it several other times before. And I think that's a part of the reason why people are running with MJF against anybody because MJF is their guy. It's the same thing with Hangman in some way. Hangman is their guy, and you know Britt is polarizing, but Britt is still their star. They helped to build her into what she is, and so as be that as it may, I do think Saraya is going to win here, and I do think that that's going to play a part into the world title match later.
Very, very interesting. So let's move on to the Women's World Championship match. Excuse me, interim World Championship match, as much as that word might irritate Toni Storm. She is defending that championship against Jamie Hayter. SP3, something that you and I talked about this week. I Bleav you brought it up, talking about not knowing, with Toni Storm, if she loses this matchup, does she technically never get credit for being the AEW Women's World Champion? She actually cleared that up in an interview with The Ringer this week, where she talked about exactly that. She says, hey, look, I have been putting all of this work into this title run, and if I lose it before the unification match with Thunder Rosa, I'm wiped clean from the lineage. Like, I don't get credit at all for any of that. And with that in mind, that alone, to me, I know Jamie Hayter is white hot. She's absolutely white hot. And typically you want to ride the lightning. I said that earlier. You catch lightning in a bottle, you want to run with it. I feel like you gotta play the long game and stick with Toni Storm in this one. And Jamie will get her day. It will come, and it will come fairly soon. Maybe even as early as next year. I think you got to go with Toni Storm in this one. Which way are you leaning on this one?
Well, the Jamie Hayter moment, it doesn't come with her winning the championship. That comes when she turns on Britt Baker. When she goes against Britt Baker, when she either stands up for herself or betrays Britt Baker, that's when she just it's no stopping her to the top. And then you put the championship on her. I don't think right now is the time. I think Toni Storm has been really good as AEW Interim Women's World Champion, and I want to see her versus Thunder Rosa to unify the title. And I've been saying this for a few weeks now. I think the match to do after Toni Storm eventually unifies the titles after beating Thunder Rosa is Storm, Hayter, and Baker. And in that match, you make your decision. You either have Britt turn on Jamie and win back the championship, or Hayter stands up for herself and she wins the title and she pins Britt.
Phil, our friends over at Bet Online had this one with the closest odds of all the championship matches on the card. A very, very slight favorite is Toni Storm in this matchup. Which way are you going here?
I think Toni's going to win here. I think that Toni has unfinished business as the interim champion. And I don't like the idea of Hayter's first win coming with this asterisk next to it that she didn't beat the champion. And I feel like in order for them to get past all of that, they have to figure out this Thunder Rosa stuff first. Now, whether that means that Toni is eventually going to get her match, or they officially vacate the title and make her the official champion, I feel like they need to sort that out first before they put the title on Jamie. And so I just don't like the idea of having like two champions in between all of this stuff with Thunder Rosa. Now, I could be wrong, and they might make her champion anyway, but I don't think that I am. And I think that because Jamie is so popular here, the only way you could justify this without losing the crowd is that Britt is going to come into play and Britt is going to get booed again. I think that people are buying in and trying to turn Britt prematurely. I think Britt is going to remain a heel. And I think the same thing with Max. I think people are buying in. No, I think Britt is going to remain a heel. She's going to do something in this match to cost her the title. And I think that that's going to lead further into splitting them up later. I wouldn't be surprised, as popular as Jamie is getting. I think people are kind of overlooking Jamie as somebody that could be Jade at some point.
Yeah. Well, 100%. I mean, we talked about, I mean, after Nyla, I mean, there's not really like a clear cut TBS title contender. And yeah, if that's a direction they want to go with Jamie Hayter, they can give her, kind of that moment until, like you said, all of this stuff gets cleared up. Because if you start having title changes with interim and, okay, well, this never really happened, but it kind of did. We know it just gets really, really confusing. And I don't think it would be right for Tony. I think, she's putting in all this work. She is trying to carry the division right now. She is the champion, whether you want to put an interim tag on it or not. I think she should get credit down the line, and she should get her match with Thunder Rosa if it's a possibility. And yes, Phil, I agree with you. If it's not a possibility, they need to figure that out soon and move on. You got to cut bait at some point and move on. And then when you can allow Thunder Rosa to take as much time as she needs to come back, and then you can revisit things down the line. Phil, you kind of alluded to what we're going to talk about next, which is the main event. Will he, won't he, as far as MJF is concerned? I think, obviously, this is his moment going up against Jon Moxley. There, if you polled maybe 1,000 AEW fans, maybe 995 of them would pick MJF to win this match. But it's going to come down to how. And I think anybody who watched Dynamite this week, if you weren't suspicious that something is at play here with Maxwell Jacob Friedman, you know it now. All right, like. He comes down there to save Moxley from this attack, and he is just, dropping dudes left and right like it was nothing. Like he was like his name was Brett Maverick. If nobody understands that reference, it's a really good one. Go watch the film. He is just dropping dudes like he paid them to fall down. There definitely feels like there is something nefarious going on here, whether it's Max with the firm, whether it is Max and it is William Regal, some kind of cahoots going on back there. We talked about this. You brought up, Phil, earlier on that this whole pay-per-view could be the downfall for the Blackpool Combat Club. I think you've been dying to talk about this matchup and what could be going on with Max. Everybody wants him to turn babyface. It's right there to do it. Might not be the move that Tony Khan and MJF and they decide to go in.
Yeah, this guy is a student of CM Punk. This guy has been dropping CM Punk lines for the last few weeks. Keeps telling you he's the devil. He's going to do something on Saturday night to redefine himself as a heel. I think this is probably the second most predictable outcome of the night. MJF will walk out of the night as champion. It's just a matter of how. And he's definitely going to cheat to win. He's not going to just beat Mox clean. He's going to cheat. Because it just leads to everything that he's done. I mean, the fact that Mox told us that he's won one match this year, recently, and that was the Yuta match. He hasn't wrestled much. He hasn't really earned anything. He didn't win that ladder match. They handed him the chip.
His last title match, his last really big pay-per-view match, he got destroyed. He got decimated.
Yes.
Wardlow freaking dropped him like he was the Hulk and he was Loki. All right, like that is what happened in that match.
Yeah. So nothing about this title match is earned for him, and it would make all the sense in the world for him to have a great match with him. But then at the end of the day, end up cheating. And man, if you take the analogy that he is Syndrome here, and Regal told him, "Go home, kid. I work alone." No, he very much is throwing this saving, this salvation of Jonathan Moxley this week. No, he's absolutely pushing the buttons like, hey, yep. All right, punch here. Yep, fall down. Punch here, fall down. Hey, eye poke, fall down. Get out of here. Hey guys, get out of here or I'll stick my foot up your ass. They have the numbers on you, sir. They have no reason to leave. They could just get back in there and jump you and you could do nothing about it. But no, they left because they're still working with you. So no, he is going to do something bad. I wouldn't be surprised because he keeps saying, I'm not going to beat you with that ring, which immediately reminds me of, hey, I'm not going to beat you with a paradigm shift, but ends up beating with the paradigm shift anyway. No, he's not going to beat him with this diamond ring. He's going to cheat in some way. And I wouldn't be surprised if those brass knuckles come sliding in the ring and he knocks him out to win the match.
That's immediately what I thought of SP3 when he dropped that line this week. Doesn't need the Dynamite Diamond Ring to knock him out. I'm like, oh well,
He's been saying it since the Regal promo, and I've been saying he's going to win with the brass knuckles since the Regal promo. Since he said he's not going to use the Dynamite Diamond Ring, I was like, so he's going to use the brass knuckles. But like Phil said, it's about how, because I think that is the finish, and that should be the finish because that puts the whole story into a nutshell. But it's the how he does it. He could do it where Phil is right. This has all been an elaborate ploy with everything with him and Stokely Hathaway and the firm like jump Regal like they did on Dynamite, and they get the brass knuckles and Stokely hands it to MJF. Or you could bring it all full circles because the one line from Dynamite that got me, that solidified what I've been thinking for the past month, pretty much since the Regal MJF promo, was the line MJF said when he says that I'm going to knock you out on Saturday, John. No ring necessary. Ain't that right, Will? So I think that was the confirmation. It was kind of just showing us everything before our eyes. I believe this is his Rock Survivor Series 1998 moment. Everybody's been crowning him as the new crown top babyface of AEW, and he's going to swerve us all, and he's going to become the top heel and an even more dastardly heel, and he's going to drive the knife into the Blackpool Combat Club. It's going to be Regal and MJF, with MJF holding up the title, with Regal raising his hand, and now we're going to have MJF versus the Blackpool Combat Club as the big feud coming out of this.
Yeah, it couldn't have been more clear to me that Jon Moxley is tired. He wants to take this vacation.
That promo, dude, that promo, there was a lot of good stuff in that promo, but the overall feeling of Jon Moxley just being like, I'm ready to get out of here. I don't even know what day Full Gear is on.
Yeah, man, like I swear to God, when he said Sunday, oh wait, is it Saturday? I swear he just wanted to go, fuck it, whatever. I swear he just wanted to.
Look. I did my part here. I took on the title for a third time. I carried this on, and I got us to the finish line. My wife is here doing great things now. I'm about to peace out, y'all. And so I think not only because we've seen him take a beating, we've seen him bleed, and so just getting hit with the brass knuckles don't feel like it. Look, he's gonna get knocked out, and then the firm is gonna come out and stomp this man out and write him off TV. That's what's gonna happen, and afterwards the firm is gonna hold MJ up on their shoulders. It's gonna be a triumphant moment for him, and he's probably gonna drop another Punk line. You stupid old man. I'm a snake. And
I 100% I agree with all of that. And that is why I said earlier, I'm glad that we're not picking the Eliminator title tournament because, that kind of telegraphs who wins that. And that's why I'm happy this match isn't happening on the card. If you have Ricky Starks win, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You're going to do babyface Ricky versus MJF. Okay, a heel MJF. That makes a ton of sense. You're not going to do Ethan Page if, the firm and MJF are still working with one another. So I'm glad that matchup is going to happen at a later date and not on this card. Because, look, it's all telegraphed anyway. I think at this point, if MJF went through with the babyface turn and won this match clean, Jon Moxley doesn't lose matches clean. His loss to CM Punk at All Out was like his first clean pinfall in 2 years? Isn't that what Tony said in the pressers? So it's like, this man don't lose clean. He ain't going to lose clean to MJF of all people, who literally cheats to win every damn thing in his entire life.
Especially when at this very same pay-per-view, he did not beat MJF clean. He cheated to beat MJF clean. This is his moment. This is his full circle moment to get eye for an eye. And in some ways, he's justified. And that's the way he's going to spin it.
And that's why I think he's not going to use the Dynamite Diamond Ring, because that's going to become the theme of Full Gear. Because if you remember last year at Full Gear, what did he tell Darby Allin? I'm going to beat you with a headlock takeover. And he did exactly that. So that's why I think at Full Gear, he's going to knock out Jon Moxley. No Dynamite Diamond Ring necessary. We're not going to tell you what is necessary, but no Dynamite Diamond Ring necessary.
Yeah.
All right. We'll all see how it goes down this Saturday night. John Moxley, please make sure you get to the show. It's on Saturday. You can watch it on Bleacher Report, where you can also find the work of this good gentleman right here. Also, make sure to tune into the Grapsody podcast. Phil, tell everybody where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, don't let anybody out here fool you and tell you that people's family is in the dirt sheets or any of this other stuff and making these weird flips of the lotto record and calling things little dick energy. Don't believe the hype. You can watch the Grapsody podcast on Saturday at noon Eastern time on Fightful's YouTube channel. That is me. That is Mr. Will Washington, who is a fine, upstanding man, and Righteous Reginald, who does not get in trouble on Twitter, has nothing but the best things to say about Bray Wyatt. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. SP3, what's going on True Heel this week?
Check out my Twitter handle at TrueHillSP3. We'll be live on Friday today at 11:05 a.m. Eastern time with our Full Gear preview with special guest Joel Herbert of the Late Night Grin. And then we got True Hill Heat 201 on Saturday, 11:05 a.m. Eastern time. So check that out as we preview Full Gear and New Japan Pro Wrestling X Stardom Historic Crossover.
Very cool. And make sure, guys, to, again, hit the thumbs up here for the video. Really helps drive up our audience. Thank you very much. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button while you're here. We got a lot of good stuff coming down the pike, including next week. I'll have the honor of chatting with Mia Yim ahead of Survivor Series War Games next weekend. So I'm looking forward to getting to chat with her, and that will be up probably sometime Wednesday morning, I believe, here on Bleav in Pro Wrestling. Phil, thank you so much. SP3, always a pleasure. Thank you, guys, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Full Gear. SP3 and I'll be back for our regular show, as long as nothing else happens in my life between now and then. 2:15 on Tuesday. Live. I said live, baby. This is the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast, brought to you by Bet Online.